Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lorthorn and welcome to To Immersive Engineering for game version 1.18.2, a guide for the realism-inspired tech mod where you play with windmills, electricity, and war crimes. This is for Java Edition, runs on Forge, can be found on CurseForge, links in the description. It runs on older versions of Minecraft, but you may find that some content will have changed if you are using this SID guide for anything but 1.18.2. This mod is by Blue Sunrise, Damien Hazard, SkySum, Malt0811, CFG, Rafan Stats. Thank you guys for the mod. Now then, let's get started. Now if you didn't know, this mod gives you water wheels and windmills. And this lets you do a whole bunch of stuff. To figure out what that stuff is, we need to start by making the engineer's manual. You make it with a lever and a book. You may find that your resolution impacts the capabilities of being able to read this guidebook though, as in my case. This can be fixed by going into your game options, going to your video settings, and changing your current resolution until you can read it and run the game at the same time. However, this guidebook you will find very useful and can bring you through all the things you need to know. Once you have yourselves the engineer's manual, another step I'd recommend if you are very new to this mod, or even if you are a veteran to it, is going and finding yourself a village. Typically, plains villages. These have a special new building in them, which spawns not only new villagers, but also the resources that you will be using within this mod. Tables to take with you, certain things to snatch and grab, the villagers that come with it when they spawn, and generally just a good way to get started. A thing to note is that these wooden storage crates that can be found out and about around can be broken, and they will carry all the resources in them, so you don't even have to worry about space management. You can just grab and loot what you want. Now that you've gotten yourself some early starting resources, the next thing you want to do is gather a lot of the in-game resources. In particular, the ore. Wood as well, but ore especially. Getting yourself a lot of coal, copper, iron, gold to extent, a lot of redstone, and then the resources and ores that come from this mod, like aluminum, which can be got from braxite ore, lead, which is from lead ore, silver from silver ore, nickel from nickel ore, and uranium from uranium ore. Get as much of this as you can, and in fact, for everything I show you in this mod, basically you want a lot of it, unless it is hyper complicated, and then even then, you want a lot of it. While you're out and about gathering these resources, another step you may want to take is getting yourself a hoe and destroying a lot of grass. From this destroyed grass, you will come across industrial hemp seeds. These seeds you want to plant a lot of. Make sure they're constantly growing, so while you're out mining and smelting and getting all these resources ready, you have yourself a lot of industrial hemp. In fact, you want so much, you might as well automate it, and industrial hemp grows in such a way that it is automatable. The top of the plants can be knocked off to gain the resources. This is where we're going to use our first item from the mod, which is the conveyor belt. Conveyor belt moves things. On it, players and objects. Once they get to the end of the track, they will typically fall off. If there's a chest at the end of the track, then the object will go into the track. Using this in combination with perhaps a redstone clock, a lot of pistons, and some shenanigans, you can get yourself a pretty good setup to automate the harvesting of your hemp, getting the industrial hemp fiber and the industrial hemp seeds, both resources you'll want to hang on to. Simple redstone clock or doing it manually yourself, both are useful and a quick way to harvest the hemp, and in reality, you just want a lot of it. After you've gotten yourselves all of these resources, and you'll be continually getting these resources throughout the mod, you'll want to build yourself the engineering hammer. Made with sticks, iron ore, and string, it is one of your main tools that you'll be using in this mod. It has a fun feature of it can rotate and interact with various different objects, such as treasure chests or other mechanical things, which is just useful in itself. After that, you'll also want to gather yourself a whole bunch of sand and a whole bunch of clay. You may also at this point want to get yourself a nether portal. Go into the nether and get yourself a lot of netherrack and some magma blocks. Netherrack we are going to be turning to nether brick. The clay we'll be making into sand and also keeping its clay form. Getting yourself these bricks and nether bricks for making the next things to come. Now, the first thing you're going to be making with all these new resources is going to take yourself sandstone, brick, and clay balls, and that is going to be the coke bricks. Coke bricks give you 3 per of these process, and you want about 27 coke bricks to start with. Now, given that this is a slightly complicated recipe, there is a nifty little thing you can do, which is use yourself an engineering table. The engineering table will take a few resources you don't have just yet, but what's fancy-dancy about the engineering table is that it can store things in it, much like Tinker's Construct. So those seeds are now just stored in it. It also has a little bit of chest space to keep other resources. Basically, if you don't have quite enough of your clay balls in here, and you want to automate it so you can just filter them in when you're ready, and just lay them out and about around your base. Now, to get this fancy material that is made out of the treated wood and treated sticks is where the next construct comes into place. Taking your coke bricks, you want to lay them out in a 3x3 cube. And then you take your engineering hammer and you tap it right in the front, and it'll turn it into the coal coke oven. Coal coke oven is an oven that you put coal into and you get coal coke out of. You also get a sort of gross resource out of it called creosote oil. Creosote oil will gunk up the processes and stop you getting coal coke, something that you want a lot of. You also want this creosote oil though. How you get is you stick a bucket into the little blue faucet, you take it out from the orange faucet, then you go over to a crafting table, fill that crafting table with wood in a circle, like you'd make a chest, put the creosote bucket in the center of it, and this will give you treated wood blocks. Then you can sort of repeat the process of extracting creosote oil, filtering it into the center here to get your treated wood, and slowly emptying your coal coke oven of all the creosote inside it. Do be a little careful with the engineering tables. They might not save in between logins and logouts what's in the crafting table, or that could just be a minor bug I have encountered. But yes, this is how you get the treated wood. And then treated wood is like any other wood in the game, with a few extra benefits of crafting stuff for this mod. But you can make sticks out of it like you normally would. You can make half slabs out of it like you normally would. Maybe not doors or trapdoors, but you can get all the important stuff. After you've gotten yourself the supply of treated wood and a lot of coal coke, you can move on to the next step. And that is smelting up even more bricks and nether bricks, combining them together with a magna cube in the center, and creating blast bricks. Blast bricks are very much the same story as the coke bricks. You want the 3x3, making a large cube of 27 blocks, setting them up in said cube, and then tapping them with the hammer. Now, what's the blast furnace for? Well, this is the crude blast furnace, and it is for making steel. To make steel, you need iron, and you need the coal coke. Coal coke burns the iron down, and it will turn it into steel. It takes 60 seconds per steel ingot, and you'll also get the byproduct of slag. As you can see here, we've already gotten 38 steel ingots and 38 slag, and burnt through a lot of coal coke. From here, you want a whole bunch of steel. In fact, you want 27 steel. Then you want to take that steel, put it into a crafting table, take your engineering's hammer, put it in there with it, and create steel plates. Once you've got the 27 steel plates, you want to then disassemble your current blasting furnace. When the blasting furnace is in its created form, all you have to do is take it apart normally, break any block, and then you can just break it down into its component composite parts. However, anything that was inside it upon being destroyed will be deleted forever. So take out all your coal coke, your slag, and your steel before you do so. Then take the blocks from your blasting bricks and your steel plates, put them together, and make reinforced blasting bricks. Then recreate your blasting oven. However, this time, put a hopper on top. Then yet again, tap that sucker at its very front with your hammer, and you'll make the improved blasting furnace, which works just a little bit more efficient than the old blasting furnace, giving you iron slightly faster than it was before. Now that you have more iron on the burn in your improved blasting furnace, you can move on to the next step, which is getting yourself a pair of pliers. These are made through sticks and iron, and this whole deal is about copper. This mod, you'll want a lot of copper. Go figure, copper and electricity seem to mix. Once you've gotten that copper, you want to pound it flat like you did that steel and make copper plates. Just a note on iron, steel, all the metals, and the hammers, and the wire cutters, they basically all work the same. You can pound lead flat, you can pound iron flat, you can pound uranium flat. All you need to do is have the engineering hammer to do so, and then you can get yourself the plates of metal. Taking these plates of metal, particularly the copper plates, you want to take the engineer's wire cutter and combine the two into copper wire. The wire cutters will stay, using up a bit of durability, while the plates will disappear. Get yourself 4 wire, put that around a stick, and you'll get yourself LV wire coil. which means low voltage wire coil. Take these low voltage wire coils and wrap them around the iron ingot. This will create copper coil blocks. Then you want to take a bit of redstone, iron along the bottom, the copper coil in the middle, and you can make the kinetic domino. From here, you want to make yourself a lot of terracotta. Have this going in the background as well while you're getting to all these steps. Make yourself a few casual terracotta blocks on the sly, and with that terracotta, you then combine it with the copper ingots to make the LV wire connectors and the LV wire relays. Now at this point, you should have a lot of treated wood. You want to take this treated wood, turn some into sticks, then combine those sticks and the treated wood and planks and make windmill blades. Get yourself 8 windmill blades, put a piece of iron in the center, and you can make yourself a windmill. A windmill needs a lot of space around to work. In fact, it needs a 9x9 space to work and needs to be up in the air without anything in front of it. What's this for? This is for making power. Now you can also make power through making a water wheel. The water wheel segments are about the same difficulty to make as the windmill segments, however you only need 4 of them and 1 steel ingot in the center to make the water wheel, which makes them, I think, considerably easier to craft than the windmill blades. Now you're just about ready to make yourself a little bit of power, but before you can get to that you need to make yourself a battery. Batteries are made with water and redstone, creating the bucket of redstone acid. Then you sandwich the acid between 2 lead plates, put some treated wood in the corners, iron around the side, and you get yourself a low voltage accumulator or battery. Then, to make sure you don't get yourself zapped and you know that all the power is working, combine a compass with some copper and sticks to get yourself the engineer's voltmeter, and you're just about ready to go with making power. All you need now is to set the whole blasted thing up. To set up a power system, you're going to want to first put down the kinetic domino. Then on top of it, you want to put the LV connector. From here, you can attach the kinetic work device to the front of the domino. We are going to be using the windmill for this case. Then you want to take your LV wire coil and attach it to the low voltage accumulator. This too will require the LV wire connector on top, and then you simply wire them together. Now one of the things about wiring these together is they need clear space to travel in between. So there can't be blocks in the way, and connectors are a little bit finicky about how they want to work. They can only have 1 connection. However, that 1 connection can be to the wire relay. And the wire relay can have as many connections as it pleases, attaching 2 connectors together or even connecting 3 together. Regardless of how many connections there are, you now have power in your battery. Our battery is currently storing 100,000 flux, which is the power used. Now, right here it's saying it's generating a certain amount, and we'll get into the generation and how efficient everything is in a bit. But before that, let's get over a little more nuance in the wires. If you want your wires to travel through a block, because they normally cannot, then you're going to need some LV wire connectors. If you observe here, our wire can't get through there because there's blocks in the way. However, if we put the LV wire connector on both sides, then right click it with a hammer, it'll make a through point. Then we can attach the wires up, and it'll go straight through the block into our different accumulator. Water wheels, very similar to windmills, but they need water to run. The more water pouring down them in one continuous direction, the better it is for the water wheel. The basic water wheel produces about 105 flux a tick. We can observe flux going up by destroying this accumulator, reconnecting the wires through them, and looking at what's happened. So we are getting about 6 out of potential 256 flux through this wire relay, and the water wheel is generating about 105 per second for us, more close to 100 in its power production. This one is a lot more efficient, spinning faster as you can see because the water is flowing down in a waterfall and then underneath it, making it very efficient. This wheel produces about 300 flux per tick. Now, a windmill with a few blocks in front of it and not doing so well is going to produce about 200 flux per tick, whereas a windmill with sails on the front and a lot of space is going to produce 700 per tick. The most efficient you can get with these basic kinetic daimyo setups is this water wheel setup here though. Water wheels can be set up 3 together in one, and they act as one giant water wheel. And then you have water pouring across the top, down through the side, and down the bottom, giving it a lot of spin. There's a certain sweet point you can find with the water wheel. Basically, you can stand on water wheels without going through them, and you basically want the water to flow from this point across and down constantly. This super setup here produces about 2,200 ticks per second. It is a little difficult to read, but this will be producing you a lot of power, and you'll be able to do a lot of stuff with this early power, and this is actually a fairly easy setup to achieve with just a little bit of work to get a lot more power than setting up a ton of windmills or going through all the effort of getting the windmill sails. Windmill sails, what are those? Well, remember all that industrial hemp fire I had you collecting? Well, that makes tough fabric for you when you surround a stick with it. Then you take this toughened fabric, put them into this funny looking knife-shaped pattern here, and you get the windmill sails. The windmill sails can then be attached to the windmill, one sail per blade. Each sail makes the windmill spin just that little bit faster, and with increased speed of movement, increased power is being produced. An interesting little fact about windmills is when the weather is bad, they run faster and better. That is something to keep in mind with power production. The weather being terrible is not always terrible for you. Let's do something with this power. The first thing we're going to do is going to require another block, go figure. And that block is the external heater. The external heater is made with our friend copper coils, copper around the sides, redstone on the bottom, and iron on the tips. Put that all together, you get this heater. Put the heater down, and you attach a power source to the back. We are currently using the creative accumulator, which gives us infinite power. And with that infinite power, these furnaces can now be heated up. That is what the external heater does, as it makes furnaces do work for you. You don't need coal in these furnaces anymore. You just need to let it run, and the fires will get a burning from the heater's external work, and as a way to stop burning coal and instead use the wind to melt your steel. From there, I want you to make a whole bunch of iron plates. Take these iron plates and turn them into iron sheet metal by lining them up all in a row. Then take the iron sheet metal, make a little dome out of them, and put your new friend, the external heater, in the bottom, and this will make you the blast furnace preheater. The blast furnace preheater is a faster way for you to get the iron that you so desperately want. Take the blast furnace preheater, and you attach this lovely boy to the side of your blast furnace. Then you attach a power source to the top of it, get the power running, and then whenever you want to produce anything that is slightly steel related, this will make the process go faster via the preheaters increasing it from the terrible 60 seconds it was before to something much faster. You can even auto feed resources into this thing and automatically have the slag come out the back using our conveyor belts with something extra, extracting conveyor belt. This extracting conveyor belt is the next thing you're going to make. It extracts things out of chests. If we put on a chest, then things will come flying out of a chest. The opposite to things going into a chest when just using the conveyor belt. To make these extractors, we're going to need to make a new resource, a rather important resource, the iron mechanical component. This is made with copper and iron plates. Put that together, you get the iron component. Then we are going to make the iron rod. Just two iron on top of each other. Next, we're going to make the striped curtains. They are not all that useful, but they are used for our conveyor belt, so we have to make them. They take the toughened fabric, iron rods on top. Then you combine the striped curtain with some treated wood, iron mechanical component, a conveyor belt, and you'll get yourself the extractor conveyor belt, and you can have extracting fun for days with these extractor belts. Something to note is the engineer's screwdriver. You make it out of stick and an iron rod, and it can modify things, changing the tick rate of the extractors and a whole bunch of other useful things. You'll definitely want one of these little suckers around when getting further into this mod. Making alloys. Alloys are made with brick, sandstone, and the kiln brick. Put them together in a 2x2, tap one of them with your hammer, you'll get the alloy maker. Alloy making is a rather simple process when it comes to this machine. You put the coal in the bottom, the alloy components you want in the top. Let's say we want to make Constantine. That requires copper and nickel, and it will start running, and it will produce for you alloyed materials. But all these resources you'll be finding are getting a little bit pricey. So let's have some fun and double our metals, as well as make a food processor. However, we're going to need a few new things to get this done. One of those things is going to be a steel fence, made out of steel rods, made like the iron rods, steel scaffolding, and your very first light engineering block. This is made with the iron mechanical components, the iron sheet metal, a bit of copper in the center, and you get yourself one of these beauties. Next, you're going to make yourself the redstone engineering block, very similar to the last one, but instead of machining components, it uses redstone. Make yourself some of these. Then we get on to our very first complex multi-block structure. Unlike the simple furnaces we've been working with before, this thing is a little bit complicated. Now, you can find all these recipes within the book. You go to the heavy machinery, we're currently making the crusher, and it'll give you this little video. The video can be paused, You can go up and down with it. You can hit the stop to see what it'll look like when it's completed. You can hit the play to see where everything goes and how it needs to be done. It's very useful. Shows you how everything's done. A little question mark on the side tells you how it works, and the instruction book will even tell you how to work through these things if you're so inclined to reading learning instead of auditory learning. However, when it comes to the visual learning and having someone show you done, well, let me get that done for you. So the first layer of the crusher that I'm going to have you make is steel scaffolding. You put the steel scaffolding all along the bottom. You kind of want to make a C shape with a blob on the side. Then you want to take yourself the engineering light blocks and you put them down underneath here and along there like that. Next, you put redstone engineering block in the farthest bottomest corner. You up boost beside it one of the light engineering blocks. Take those metal fences and make a little circle with them. Then plop a happy little engineering block in the center of that. Put the light engineering blocks along the side here. And you'll get a little bit of a structure looking like this. You want to take hoppers and put them all on top of the structure like this. 9 hoppers in total. Then your machine's basically done. You take your hammer and you tap this foremost fence in front of you and you will have the industrial crusher. Now the industrial crusher is going to take a lot more power than you're used to running, but that's a good thing. So let's get to crushing stuff. So the crusher has a few things it requires to work. It needs a lever on this little thing here. It also needs power in the top here. You attach yourself a connector and the wires to your battery, and that will give your crusher its charge. Then when you're ready to use your crusher, you simply flick the lever to get it ready to go, or in this case stop. Then you simply put the resources you want into it to be crushed. So raw iron, when thrown into the crusher, will produce for us a whole lot of noise and iron dust. Iron dust, when put into a furnace, will be melted down into iron ingots. For every iron ore you put into the crusher, you get 2 iron dust. Thus, this doubles the amount of iron you get. You can extract the iron out of the front of the crusher with this simple conveyor extractor belt that comes out of the front. Things must go into the top of the crusher to operate, and the crusher is actually really dangerous. We are about to witness a horrible murder of this cow, and as you can see, beef came out. So, if you are so inclined, you can put a whole lot of cows along the conveyor belts. Entities cannot escape conveyor belts, and their fate is sealed. They will eventually be ground up into pate. Now you may have noticed this setup looks a little bit more complicated than what you're used to. It's actually pretty much the same as it's always been. I put coal and iron ore into here, it goes down the conveyor belt, then it hits the item rotator. This little beauty is just a sorting device. Each side is colored in a different point, and the extractors will only pull it out of that colored point. So you can basically say filter by name tags, filter by data, filter by damage, so you can organize a whole bunch of stuff. Then you'll extract out of the colored side, so this is extracting out the red side, whereas this is extracting out the green side. Resources will come out to be extracted and ordered, and then they'll be put into their correct places, and we can make this setup which automatically loads coal into the bottom and iron into the top, and it comes out of the crusher. We can load all of our iron and coal into here, and it'll just sort it out for us in the process, and we'll get everything we want all put together nicely for us, and we can get on with all our automated processes. Now this fancy little wonder block is made with just treated wood, conveyor belts, some machinery, and redstone. Now another one of these weird little blocks that comes along with this whole crazy shenanigans is this turntable here, made with the connect copper coil, treated wood, iron, all the good stuff. And basically, you put an object to the side of this, you give it a redstone signal, and it will rotate it. It's really weird. You can probably figure out uses for it, but basically, this little thing here is where the rotations will happen. You can modify these rotations or whatever using your own tool. They're weird devices. I haven't quite figured out how I would want to use them. Maybe in tandem with a conveyor belt, could be. Set up some automatic signals. Who knows what craziness you could get up to, but that is what I found that for. So this was the point at which I actually discovered you could make these storage devices. Kind of fun. And with them, you can also make something else that's going to be very useful for us in the future, and that is this engineering table here. The engineering table is one of these things, but with a bit of iron top and treated wood slabs. Gives you the engineering table a very, very useful thing that you'll be using a lot of in the future. What's one of the main uses of the engineering table is creating metal presses, and we're going to automate yet another process for you. You see, metal plates making takes up durability from your hammer, and this can be turned into an automated process of getting metal plates without damaging your said hammer. To do so, you take this engineering blueprint here with the iron plate on top, and this will make the engineering blueprint for metal press molds. You put that into the engineering table, little thingy here, the little grip, and you take yourself the engineering wire cutters, some steel plates, slap those together, and you can generate for yourself these various different metal plates. The main one we are concerned with is this metal plate mold. We'll be taking that iron metal plate mold out of the whole mold, and we'll be moving on to the next step in the automation process. You'll be wanting to make yourself some electrum grit. This is with your whole ore doubling process. Throw silver into the crusher, throw gold in the crusher, combine those together into electrum, and smelt that into electrum ingots. Then take yourself steel plates, copper in the center, and make steel mechanic components. Take your steel plates, turn them into a steel sheet metal block, then take these steel sheet metal blocks, the new electrum ingot you got, the new steel mechanical components you got, put them all together in this pattern here, and make the heavy engineering block. Then make this really simple device. It is redstone in the bottom, scaffolding on the sides, conveyor belts on top of the scaffolding, engineering block at the very top, and then upside down piston right in the bottom. Tap the piston with a hammer, and you get yourself the metal press. The metal press is then a little bit of a weird one. You can set up a long conveyor belt along it. Already has an automatic conveyor belt in it. Then you take the metal plate that you want, and you put it into this here. Take it out by shifting, put it in by right-clicking, and this will give you the metal plate. Then you turn the lever on to do its work. You take yourself either iron, steel, or whatever metal plates you want to make, throw them onto the conveyor belt, and this thing will smash them into a plate. Then you can have it loaded off to a chest for you automatically. And it will plate iron or steel. You can also turn the machine off, and everything will load up and get ready to go, and you can have it running. Oh yes, this requires power too. The power is in the very top. You put your power there, attach it to the power source. That's how it runs, and this is an automation system for metal plates and also keeps them safe. There are a few other plates you're going to want to automate: the metal bolt casing press, the rod casing, and the wire casing. All these automations are really useful and save you a ton of time. However, power is getting a little bit pricey for you now, and so we are going to come up with a new way to get power. And that new way is the thermal electric generator. This is made with Constantine plates, copper coils, and steel ingots. Constantine is just a simple composite of copper and nickel, and you should be able to make it at this point. Now, the thermoelectric generator is actually really cool. You put something hot on one side and something cool on the other side, and you get electricity out of the sucker. You can do it twice per one, so 2 lava on one side and 2 water on the other side, and this will produce a fairly decent amount of power. Doesn't take up much space if you have it set up right, and it gives you 700 flux per tick. That's pretty good. However, it can actually get better. If you use uranium, an object you've mined, and blue ice, making it not only safer than walking around lava and lowering the risk of falling into water, but also more efficient, giving you 900 flux per tick in your power production. But what's even cooler is that you can stack them in these zigzag patterns, putting the uranium along an axis, and then putting next in the line of the zipper staircase the geothermal generators, then putting the blue ice along it, and you can basically keep doing this, getting a large floor set up in these power cells, creating a really cool looking generator that gives you a lot of energy for very, very space efficient. So this here is about a 9x9. That is in equivalent space that the windmill takes up when it's up in the air, and it can't have stuff in front of it. This has stuff in front of it, and this is way more efficient than that windmill is. This whopping setup produces a ton of power, and then you can connect it all up in this kind of cool fashion to the wire relays, run them along, and charge up your batteries, just making a very efficient and cool looking power cell setup. With all this power and stuff going on, this new efficiency, let's get a little bit more efficient and let's automatically move fluids about. Because until now, we've been moving fluids about with buckets. It's time we upgrade. It's time we make pipes. Iron plates in a row will make fluid pipes. And now, at this point, you will have figured out that you are in fact not playing Minecraft, but playing Factorio. Now, once you've gotten over that fact, we can make ourselves a pump. Uses the very new fluid pipes we just made, iron plates on top, and the iron mechanical component in the middle. This will make the fluid pump. And now you can start moving fluid about. One more step to go, and that is barrels. Metal barrels. You can make wooden barrels just the same, but we want metal barrels using iron sheet metal and iron sheet metal slabs. You should be able to figure out how to make those iron sheet metal slabs. Then you get yourself a barrel. Barrels can either intake liquid or outtake it by tapping this little thing on the top or completely sealing them off forever. Once you have your barrels, you're ready to start sucking up that creosote that you've had going on for ages. How do we get this creosote sucked up? Super easy, barely inconvenience. All we need is a little bit of power, a few pipes, a barrel, and a dream. Connect your pump up to a source of power and connect some redstone signaling to it. Then attach pipes to it and attach one of those SID pipes to the very back of your coal coke oven. Then attach the other pipe to the barrel. If the barrel's full, you can always just set up more barrels for intake, and then flick the lever on or off to your preference, and it will siphon up all that creosote and put it into these barrels for later storage. You can take them out of the barrels using a bucket. Creative mode, of course, obliterates everything, and you can put the liquids back into the bucket by right-clicking and adding them back in. Pumps can not only pump up liquid, they can also pump out liquid and spill it everywhere. Remember what I was talking about the environment? Well, you can make yourself a fluid outlet if you're so inclined, with iron bars and iron plates. Then you can go this way for our environmental hazards. Here we have a pump that is sucking infinite liquid out of this lake here. Simply intake out the bottom, protecting the lever so it should run, or we could just use a screwdriver to fix all that problems. Having a bit of power running to it, then having these pipes run all the way up to this outlet here to produce for us a lot of water in all directions, just pumping out and making a right mess. Or you can choose to pump things into the water by taking them out of, let's say, a barrel that once contained creosote in it, and then having it pump it all the way along using power, and having it come out of faucets and pouring into the water so you can get rid of all that nasty pollution you happen to have. One of the many things that is difficult to figure out is the uptake and intake. You can right-click on the side of the pumps with a hammer. This will make fluid go in or out. So, fluid will get sucked in here. If we have this pipe in water at this level, it will suck it in. If we put pipes and then attach it to something, it will suck that fluid in. Now, on the reverse side, if we have it set to the orange, the fluid output, then it will pump it out of here and into, let's say, this barrel we have set up for intake. So the creosote will come out of here, and some of it might get pumped into there. Now let's do some stuff with that fluid. We are going to be making a new structure. For that, we are going to be needing the wooden barrels. Those are made with the treated wood. Get yourself the wooden barrels, and then we can move forward with this simple structure here, requiring the steel scaffolding from earlier, the light engineering blocks, and now pipes as one of the components in the bottom. Put 4 of the wooden barrels on top of that. Another light engineering block can go on the side with the redstone engineering controlling block. Then finally on top you can set up some steel fences and pistons. As you can see, these go on top of the wooden barrels. You get this simple setup in place on the 3 different levels. This can be found within the book, and you make yourself the squeezer. The industrial squeezer is the next thing you want to make, and boy, howdy does this thing run on fluids. Inside is various different things that can be squeezed. We are going to be squeezing some coke dust. To squeeze things, you put them into the little squeezer here, and it'll start working away. It's quite expensive, but we want a lot of it made. Gather this up. But you can also squeeze other things. You can squeeze industrial hemp seeds. Remember those? Put those into this container, and I'll start squeezing them, using up the power at a rather alarming rate, and very inefficiently, barely able to run. We'll start squeezing out very new plant oil for you, which will slowly fill up as the power allows. And you can do this all through piping, and you don't need a pump for this machine as it has a pump built in. You simply attach the piping to the output part, this little orange thing here, and it will shunt it out into whatever barrels you have set up. If you want to suck out the products you've made, then you can attach the extractor conveyor belt on top of this here, and anything that was in this slot here, like this hop graphite, will get sucked up and poured into the world. Input for the resources is up here. But power was a problem, was it not? So we are going to be making some more electrum grit, and this electrum grit can be turned into all the basics that we've said before. So electrum wire, electrum ingots, nuggets, plates, and this MV wire. This is made by taking the electrum wire and wrapping it around a stick to get the MV wire, and this means medium voltage wire. Then we want to take more of that terracotta we had on the back burner, combine it with the electrum ingots, and this will create for us the MV wire connector and its counterpart, the MV wire relay. And you'll want a whole bunch more of these because this is your medium voltage power supplies. This lets you run more power through. See, well, this is unlimited power here. We are limited by the amount that can go through the relays. So these new relays that we have created have almost 4 times more flux capacity to travel through them. However, if you're not using creative batteries, then you need a new MV accumulator, a new medium voltage battery. And this is made with steel, iron, nickel, and acid. This is in fact a nickel iron battery, the MV accumulator, which has a lot more storage than our last one, giving us 1,000,000 flux to be held. From here, you might be wondering, can I combine the two together? And you cannot. They do not work well together. But you can take an MV wire connector and an LV wire connector, combine them with a bunch of iron and the electrum coil, which is made with the MV wire around the iron ingot, much like the copper coil, and this will give you a transformer, and a transformer lets you transform powers from different types. So down here, got ourselves a happy little uranium generator running here. And this generator is using LV connectors to start with. Then it sends it up to the transformer. The conductor then attaches an MV wire to a breaker switch that then connects it to an MV wire connector and an MV wire battery. So this transformer is transforming the power to usable current for us. And with that, we are going to show off for you the breaker switch. Sometimes you just need to turn power off and on again. The breaker switch connects the wires just by attaching to this little point here and that little point there, and it stops power from flowing. So you can see, battery's not full. Slap this down, and it will start powering up again. And the sound effect is a work of art. Truly glorious. Now we have more efficient power with the MV connectors, and we have a way to stop ourselves from getting electrocuted because, believe it or not, live wires are dangerous. And they'll electrocute you. And so you want to be able to turn the power off so you won't get electrocuted. You can insulate wires, but that's no fun, and I am not teaching you how to do something that's not fun. So good luck figuring that out, suckers. For this next trick, this next machine, you are going to be laying out steel scaffolding, iron pipe, and a light engineering block. On top of that, you are going to be putting engineering block of redstone, a light engineering block, and some cauldrons in this corner. Then on top of those cauldrons, you're going to be putting iron sheet metal. Then you tap that whole config on this little cauldron here with a hammer, and you create the fermenter. The fermenter is used to make ethanol. Ethanol is very important. It is one of the components in biofuel, a very convenient fuel for the rest of this mod. Into the fermenter, you want to put potatoes. You can put other blocks in. They work as well. But we are using the good old-fashioned potato. You'll also notice that our power is running at a constant rate now because we are using medium capacitors, which actually lets it run at a consistent power source. You can turn the lever on and off and attach that lever to this front thing here, and it will squeeze the potatoes down into ethanol. We want to take this ethanol and we want to pipe it to the next structure that we are making. And the next structure that we are making requires heavy engineering blocks, steel scaffolding, and this sort of long T-ish shape. Long here. Set up like this. Then on top of that, you put down another engineering block. In the right corner here, you put the redstone engineering block. Put iron sheet metal on top of that, and then put another light engineering block here, leaving a space down here that you can crawl and get your kid stuck. From there, you take the iron sheet metal and make another layer here, making this bump, and you get a bit of a shape like this. Hopefully that is comprehensible. Start here, go to here, finish here. Then take your hammer, tap that engineering block, and you will get the refinery. And the refinery is where you refine your liquids. The liquids we are refining are the ethanol and that bio oil that we got from over there compressing it. We pipe this all the way down here automatically into one part with ethanol, and then over here from this bucket we take the plant oil, and that gets hoovered up by this machine here, which is getting powered on this power source here in the back by our medium voltage. And then inside we have the plant oil and the ethanol both together, and we want to mix nitrate dust with this. Nitrate dust is gotten by throwing solid sand into the crusher and getting nitrate dust, and there's a 50% chance of getting the nitrate dust out, so you just want to throw a whole bunch of sandstone into your crusher and you'll get the nitrate dust. And you take that nitrate dust, all this stuff, slap this lever, turn the sucker on, and it will create a biodiesel for you. You can take the biodiesel out of this thing with buckets. You can suck it out the front by attaching this thing here. And that's where it'll get extracted to, and then you could put down an intake barrel, and it will fill up that intake barrel with biodiesel. Oh, and now you have biodiesel. And biodiesel is used for a whole bunch of fun stuff. So let's make one of those fun things that uses biodiesel to run. New object for you to make. Copper nugget, treated sticks, make yourself a wooden grip. Take the wooden grip, add a heavy engineering block and iron mechanical component, and make the mining drill. Then make either an iron mining drill head or a steel mining drill head, depending on your resources. Taking a block of their SID resources, and then sort of a pattern like this here. Next, you want to make a jerry can. Jerry cans have nothing to do with Rick and Morty. It's an old term. Iron plate, buckets, get that together in a pattern like this and you'll get yourself a jerry can. Then you want to go over to your engineering table. You want to take your drill, you want to take the drill head you chose to use, and you want to attach the drill head to the drill. Now, it does nothing at this point. It's kind of lame. But if you take a jerry can filled with biodiesel, and you put the two together, you get the mining drill with fuel in it. Then, you have a much more efficient way to mine. It destroys things of the same type, in 9x9, and boy howdy, this thing digs. Digs real good, real fast. The iron digs in a 4x4, and the steel digs in a 9x9. Now it can be a little finicky getting yourself out of holes, but if you shift click with it, it'll drill without all those problems. So you can just shift left click, and then you can dig without those problems. No shifty left click, and you can dig with the 9x9. Also, this thing is actually a pretty formidable weapon. Kills a cow in 2 hits, not to be underestimated. Oh, what a beauty your mining drill is. The durability is based upon the head of the mining drill. So once it starts getting damaged, you take off this drill, and you can replace it with a new one, if you so wish, and you just need to keep it refueled every once in a while. Been working a lot with the ground. Let's cut some stuff up. Take steel scaffolding, iron sheet metal, put down a heavy iron machining block, and some light engineering blocks in a pattern a bit like this. Well, exactly like this. Then on top of that, add a heavy engineering block on the left middle, one more level of iron sheet metal, the redstone engineering block, light blocks along the side, and conveyor belts all along it. Then take your hammer and tap one of those, and you'll get this fancy-dancy, fun-looking machine. This machine is kind of useless at this point. It doesn't do much. For one thing, it needs power to do anything. For another, it needs a saw. Attach power to the top here like this, make sure it's running. To get the saw, that is crafted through steel plates, steel ingots, a little circle like that. That'll give you a happy little iron saw blade. Then you can take your logs, and then you throw down your wood onto the conveyor belt, and it will give you sawdust, which can be used to make paper, and it will cut the logs into 6 planks. Vast improvement. And it goes without saying, do not stand on this thing if you're not in creative mode. You will not enjoy your time, especially if you are a man. Everything takes a lot of time to craft, and you don't have time to do all this crafting. What would be nice is a way to automate it, so we are going to automate your crafting for you. This requires 2 redstone engineering blocks, steel scaffolding, and light engineering on the first layer. Then another light engineering, iron sheet metal, and conveyor belts. Then iron sheet metal slabs, made like any slabs, go on top of that, with the sheet metal on top, kind of going a line here, so if we just go build that for you, it looks a little bit like that, basically. Boom, bada bing, there you go. Then you take your hammer, and you... here, the back, and boom, you've gotten yourself the assembler. Yet further compounding that this is actually Factorio, and the assembler can run up to 3 different assemblies at once. It can contain liquid of various types by piping them into the bottom here. Things go on the conveyor belt, they enter inside, and they'll go into its inventory. You need to power it, the power comes in at the top, and there is a redstone lever at the side to make it operate. You can actually redstone operate it at both sides. Here's the input, here's the output. You put the recipe you want in the very top. So we can say, make me cobblestone bricks, make me trapdoors, or make me torches. Then once all of our automated processes are up and running, we can take all that wood from the sawmill, drop it in there, it'll all get hoovered inside the machine, and then it will start making us these trapdoors, which will then be exited out the outside, and make the oak doors. So very useful automation for you to work with. The mixer. Let's mix things up. To start with, fluid pipes. One in the center, then iron scaffolding around the side. You sort of make an arrow with the light engineering being the tip of the spear or the base of the spear, however you want to look at it. On top of that, you want 2 more light engineering blocks and a whole bunch of iron scaffolding, and of course the redstone engineering block. Then it gets a little weird looking. You put down this iron steel fence and the light engineering block on top of that. Then you take your hammer, you tap that, and you get this freaky looking machine. Power goes in here, lever attaches here, fluid pipe goes here, for outtake, for intake goes here. Then you can also have various objects along conveyor belts enter the machine here, and this thing makes stuff. So right now we have it filled with water, so it sucks up the water. It's full of power. I don't completely understand this output-input thing. Anyways, you can make potions in here, apparently. You can make a lot of potions. Bottling machine, you can get the turtle master, and then so, yeah, you take night vision, and then you mix that with fermented spider eyes in this giant mixer, which you have it piping in, and you can make industrial levels of invisibility potions if you want to. Or you can make concrete like I am, which is using sand, gravel, and clay. Turn the machine on, having this thing spin around. Don't enter it. Industrial accidents happen. Don't be stupid. Use safety. Make sure you have your personal protection, and have railings for God's sakes. Railings, my man. Railings. You'll just fall in there and die. Anyways, this is mixing up concrete for us, and that concrete is getting piped into this container filled with liquid concrete. It's rather slow in the making of concrete, but it's doing it, I believe. Once we hit that lever? No. There. Now it's making the concrete. Not certain how much concrete can be stored, but yeah, it's there we go. Do it from the bottom, maybe? And then it's filling up. I don't know. I think it has too much water in it or something. So it actually can't create the concrete. Like if I break that and then, I don't know, like make another pipe here just to pipe out some of this water into, and then I can actually have space to work on the concrete in the bottom. You don't want it completely filled with water, I think. Yeah, now it's space to actually make the concrete in, and now I can pipe this concrete over here. There you go. Don't like it too filled with water. Lesson learned. From the industrial mixer to the bottler. I'm not making the bottler. There's too much stuff to cover. The bottler lets you bottle things automatically. That's it. I couldn't care less about it. Onto the auto workbench. Now, the engineer's workbench is great and all, but would have, like the crafting table, you could automate it. Well, you can. With redstone here, a sort of, I don't know, squiggly bird shape here. I'm actually quite fond of drawing them with grid paper. Anyways, you get the squiggly bird shape. The engineer here looks a bit like a stealth bomber with like some stuff attached to its butt. Light engineering plates. You get that down in the first layer. Second layer, treated wood slabs. Conveyor belts going all crazy like. You have to make sure they go all crazy like this, otherwise it won't work. So that way, then that way. Light engineering blocks, heavy engineering blocks. Then, take your hammer, you tap that one slab, and you get this cool looking machine here. Power in the top. Items can enter through here via the conveyor belts, and stuff can automatically go into it. Like that. So, automatic input, and then we can have it make stuff for us. So, we currently have a bolt blueprint in there for it to automatically make for us. And so, we need to put empty shells in there, and gunpowder, and then it's going to make bullets for us. These bullets require also gunpowder and aluminum. So we throw that more gunpowder in there, and then we take this aluminum grit and we put it there, and it'll automatically flow inside. Then the components go down here. It's actually really cool. They go like through this drill thing, then this press hits them, and they get compressed into Dragon's Breath bullets, which is what we're making. You can also see, oh, it's processing that in here, and then we can turn off the whole machine here if we want to, in case someone's caught in it, emergency turn off. And then bam, we're getting some bolts laid out. We could have those pop into a chest if we want to, and the whole thing just runs. If you want to switch out the blueprints, and you can have it make the blueprint for graphite sticks, which is what I want to make, and then it just requires you to put the correct ingredients in to make the secret sauce that you have selected. Then we put those onto here into the input. It hoovers them up, sends them through the process, does a little bit of work on them,
and then gives us our graphite electrodes.
Now, while the graphite's interesting, you're probably more interested in the Dragon's Breath cartridges and bullets. So let's make ourselves a gun. Guns are made with steel rods to make the barrel. Revolver drum is made with steel machine components and steel ingots. And the hammer is made with steel and, again, that stealth bomber shape without the tip. Then you put that all together with 2 wooden grips, iron, then the things you want alongside, and bam, you got yourself a revolving door. It does nothing unless there's bullets in it. How do you load it? Shift click. Then you can put your bullets inside it, loading them up. Boop, 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 boop. This is an 8-shooter. Then, bam. Rotate, bam. Rotate, bam. Rotate, bam. Click, because nothing in it. Bam, 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 bam. And we're out of Hellfire rounds. Now there's a whole bunch of different rounds you can make. And there's in fact even a speed reloader, which you can do speed reloading with. And the gun is also modifiable. You can put a bayonet on it or a precision scope if you want. And then you got yourself a fancy looking one. My goodness, doesn't it just look fancy dancy? And you can scope in by holding this, and then you can see what you're firing at. Of course, we still have no bullets,
so we're just going to add some.
Then we have a whole selection of fun bullets to work with. We can spot that sheep. I think that was the armor piercing I just shot it with. Then that's wherever that blue one was. That's the flare. This should be the explosive. You can actually zoom in as well. Let's see here. It gets a little bit finicky the more you zoom in. That should be normal bullets out of range. This should be the wolf pack. I have no idea what that did. Homing bullet and buckshot. Tons of different bullets, bayonet, fun stuff, the gun. Well, now let's do something completely different but equally dangerous and up the voltage to high voltage electricity. To start off with your high voltage electricity, you're going to want iron grit, courtesy of the crusher, glass, green dye, and you can make insulated glass, this cool semi-transparent green stuff. Then you want to put that together with aluminum ingots and make high voltage relays, and aluminum with terracotta makes your high voltage wire relays. And you'll notice both these are equally tall, making a lot of aluminum. Then you want to make yourself the high voltage accumulator, which requires that hop graphite ingot, aluminum sheeting on the top, acid in the middle, steel on the sides, and the treated planks. Bam, you got yourself battery. The wire requires a mix of aluminum and steel for the high voltage wire, and these things actually can't be insulated, which makes them fun. Get yourself the high voltage wire. You can also make yourself the high voltage transformer if you so wish. I mean, go ahead. It's no skin off my nose. And then they're much like being before, except they're very high voltage now. So dangerous, high voltage, warning, warning. And the power transfers, these things which have 1 million flux capacity in them and 4,000 flux transformers furnace at a time. Now, why do we want this new high power? Well, we can actually make some pretty high power systems if we get enough of that uranium going, so it'd be nice to accumulate and stuff. But we are about to power something that requires, oh my goodness, loads and loads and loads of power, and that is the arc furnace. Now, the arc furnace is massive. It's going to take you a while to make. It takes a lot of steel to make. Start off with these steel sheet metal slabs. You can sort of make this pattern here, but what's better is to make this horseshoe. So the horseshoe requires a block of steel at each tip, 3 spaces in between, block of steel. Then heavy engineering block is its centerpiece. The rest is the sheet metal here. So sheet metal, sheet metal, sheet metal makes you the horseshoe. Then 2 out from the horseshoe, you make the sheet metal slabs. You put this all laid out. You get yourself a cauldron laid down and some steel scaffolding in the right corner. Next corner, you're going to take the reinforced blast furnace bricks. You can actually cannibalize your old blast furnace if you want to do this. Just break it, and it'll break, and then you can get these bricks. So reinforced bricks, you're going to put 2 down like this. You're going to get the engineering blocks in the back here, and sort of make this nice little back thing here. Then to either side of your old horseshoe, you're going to get the heavy engineering block, then more steel bricks, and it's going to give this new reinforced blast brick a bit of a hug. On top of this bit of scaffolding, you're going to put the redstone engineering block. Next layer, you're going to put light sheet metal here and here. Lay it out, light sheet metal. More light engineering in between that. Then you're going to take the steel blocks, increase it yet one more level on the sides there. And then you're going to take your reinforced blasting plates and you're going to get them out 4 long. You may think it's 3 long, but no, you want 4 long. It is now a 3x4, making this pattern. Then on top of that, it's actually a lot more simple. You're just going to take the reinforced blast panels, going to put them up in the 3x3, El Clasical style. Steel scaffolding, and a light engineering block. And then you put a little bit more steel scaffolding, just get up there. Light engineering block, then 3 long, and you get yourself something that looks vaguely like this. The book has it for the arc furnace. You can find it there. Then you take out your little hammer and you tap the cauldron and you get this cool looking machine. Now this machine needs graphite rods in it. These graphite electrodes. You put those up here in the top. Now the machine will work. Around the back you will find these things. This is where you are going to be putting your high voltage wire connectors. You're going to be attaching that to a lot of electricity. You're going to have 3 of them all running at once to get this thing properly up and running. And then up top, if you want to automate it, you can put these little dropper conveyor belts, which is the conveyor belt combined with a trapdoor. And these go onto these little cubes here, these little input hatches. Shift click to get them in place. There you go. You can't spun normally and then you can put it along however you want. You want to put your little lever here to make sure it runs on the panel, as always. Make this thing, it does the running. Pull it down, machine will run. Then, this input controls what you put in here. You're going to want to put a lot of iron in here. This input controls what goes in here. You're going to want to put a lot of coke dust in there. All the coke dust you can grind up. Then you can have a little output thing here, which is attached to the old cauldron. And you can have that run to a chest. Then you flick the lever, it makes these things run. It looks really freaky and burns. It actually damages the graphite electrodes. And this will produce steel far more efficiently than you've done. In fact, any powdering you put in here, it will also fry and making components. The arc furnace is your new best friend.
Every single iron you put into it, if there's available coke dust, will be turned into steel and also produce equal amounts of slag. The steel comes out the front and pours through this cool little system here, and the slag can come out the back if you attach the extractor conveyor belt to it.
As the arc furnace, my goodness, how far you've come. You've gotten yourself an arc furnace. Now that you have all this metal producing, you have the easy to make steel, let's go ahead and use a lot of steel up in the next crazy machine we're going to make. This next crazy machine though, is going to take a generator block, which is the daimyo with now electrum plates and steel sheet metal, and it's also going to take a radiator block, which is the same thing, but instead of the daimyo, it's a bucket of water. After you made several of those, and you have a ton of steel, which you've already been using up a ton of steel, you lay it out like this. So, steel scaffolding. In this pattern here, you can sort of make a hammer with a fluid pipe, and then you get the radiator blocks there, and then the little stand the hammer stands on is this generator block with these 2 fluid pipes either side of it. On top of that, you make yourself the T with the generator blocks in the front. You put down a rather chubby sea or a space defender enemy. I don't know. Down here, heavy engineering blocks. Here, the redstone engineering block. More radiators in the back. Then, even more radiators in the back with a nice topping of heavy engineering blocks on top to sort of make an atomic bomb looking shape, or perhaps a toy that one might put in places toys shouldn't be put. Then you got this whole thing set up,
And you're ready to make the diesel generator.
You can make yourself this locomotive looking machine by tapping the radiator in the front, and boom, you get this baby, this beaut. Into this, you want to pipe your biodiesel. You want to get all the biodiesel you can. You want to have it constantly piping into this thing here. Get the biodiesel piping in there. Get the biodiesel piping in there. Either of these things, the flute can go in. You can get the biodiesel going. And then this big Bertha will guzzle it all up inside it. And then to get the machine running, you flick the switch. And if your sound's on flow, you can't hear anything. And so you put on your ear deafeners. And that makes it all nice and quiet. Wear ear deafeners when working this mod. Makes all sounds quieter. And then this giant thing can have 3 HV connectors on the top, which is the optimal way to put it. And all 3 of these HV connectors can then run off to go power things. And so you can get all your energy just pouring out of there into whatever projects you want. Now, if you have it boop to boop, then you'll have the 4,000 coming out, so you actually only need 1. But I prefer having my power come out 3 points at once, because that allows for a lot more creativity. And you can have this thing run your arc furnace. The diesel generator produces a lot of power. It produces the max of these flux capacitors, which is an absolute insane amount of power if you think about it, and it just requires a bit of biodiesel. Now, let's get a lot of resources, because you've all done it once. Now let's do it again, but this time with style. So we are going to be making the Surveyor's Mineral Surveying Kit. All surveying and mineral stuff can be found in this little book here. Ooh, you have to squint your eyes. You go over to Overview and Resources, click on Minerals, and I'll tell you all about minerals, but I'm going to do it without the book's help. So you need your hammer, you need a bottle, you need a book and quill, you need the toughened fabric, and you make the Mineral Surveyor. Then once you have your Mineral Surveyor done, pick yourself up a battery. Yes, you can actually carry batteries around. Get yourself some light engineering blocks, some steel fences, some steel scaffolding, and make yourself this simple sample core portable battery, and make sure you can wire it up and everything. And then you can survey the land. Hold down, right click, and then there are traces of beryllium here. So we know there's beryllium about. So now we go to a new spot. All right, traces of beryllium. Traces of beryllium indicate veins towards the east. So now we're going to use F3, and okay, so we want to go east to look for this beryllium. I believe I'm facing north right now, so to go east, I want to go this way. So there's beryllium this way. Beryllium. Let's see. Beryllium 8 steps to the west. Beryllium 1 step to the north. And that is where we have this core sample set up here to locate our beryllium. So once we've located the spot where the beryllium is, you can sort of narrow it down. It's like, all right, beryllium's around here. Put down your core sampler. You attach your power to it. Little power socket's there. You right click on it, and this thing goes down. It's really satisfying actually, watch it go down. And then it pops back up again. And you right click on it, and it gives you your core sample. And this core sample tells us there's beryllium. Brilli? I'm going beryllium, but it's brilli. Brilli is here. Saturation's pretty good. Will yield about 28,000 ore. All right, taken not long ago. Pretty good. We can actually put these things down and it'll tell us. And then we go, okay, what's beryllium though? Well, when you open up this book and you flip through it, past all this stuff, it actually tells you about all the different core samples. So there's archite distite, which gives you ancient debris and gravel. 40% chance to get ancient debris, 60% to get gravel. This is really good if you can find one of these to get ancient debris. This will give you, what is this? Acropurpride. Gives you copper and gold. I'm not going to be able to read these. Beryllium will give us emeralds and prismarine. Bitumite will give us coal and sulfur. The one that I really want to find is the calosulfurite, which gives us deep slate, iron, copper ore, and sulfur. Then there's cinnabar, glandium, which gives us some stuff from the mod. Igneous rock core, not very useful. This gives us bruxite and iron. This gives us netherite, gold, and sulfur. This is methotech quartzite. We can get some deep slate nickel, and then we can get silt. We can get uraninite, which will give us deep slate lead and uranium in various different amounts. So you can go about looking for these samples, playing this sort of little detective game with this thing. So you're like, okay, I'm going to look over here now. Alright, there's traces of pentaledite. And it'll tell us, okay, we have to go south to find it. Then we go south. Then we plant down the sampler. We give it power. And it runs it down. Drills up the core sample for us. And then, once we know where the core sample is, it's best to leave the sample in the place where the core sample is. We can build the excavator. Excavator comes in two parts. The first part of the excavator is the wheel. You'll want to build the wheel first. The wheel is made out of steel and steel scaffolding. It is 7 tall and 7 wide. It's a very simple circle pattern actually to make. So you just go block down, 2 up, block down, and then 2 more up, block down. Now you can actually sort of just make a circle as you think a circle would look. So you sort of surround it. Okay, we got a bit of circle shape going on here. Use scaffolding to do this. It's kind of hard. You can actually climb the scaffolding while you're working, which makes it slightly easier. And then you get your iron in place on the steel blocks in place on it. Boom, boom, boom. Then you hammer this thing with a hammer. There we go. And bam, it turns into this scoople thing here. That's the first step you want to get done. Next thing you want to build around it. It's going to be a little bit tricky to build around, but you want to build one of these things, and you want this tip to be where your sample is dug from. So the sample wants it to be there, so it'll dig down continuously from there. Next part, going to build it around it. This is difficult. Okay, now let's go through the layers of how to build this thing. Although I actually find it easier to build it side by side. So even though I have it laid out like this, we're going to build it side by side on that thing over there. So one here, one here, one here. Then it's scaffolding underneath. And then we make an L of sheet metal here like this. Bar of light engineering blocks. That's that side done. Now we get the back done. C shape of sheet metal like this. So we go get the sheet metal into a C shape. Break that. We want the radiator right there. A heavy engineering block right here. And we want the redstone block right there. So that's that side done. 2 radiators up top like this. Radiator, radiator. Sheet metal all up underneath it. Row of scaffolding. Then light engineering blocks. And you tap that machiner and you get this thing here made up. Boom, bada bing, you got your scooper duper 5,000, 2,000,004. And then you're going to set up some stuff with this. In the back here, you want to put the extractor conveyor belt. You want to have it lead to a chest.
In fact, you might want to lead to several chests. I'll leave you to figure that out.
Next, you want to check your diesel generator, this sucker, because it's going to use up all its power, and you can connect to these wires here. And if you see, this massive hunky beam uses up a lot of flux. We want to have about 4,000 running through each one of these cables into this machine. Now I like adding these little bits of style here, because they look pretty. And currently its animation's broken.
There we go, got it fixed. Looks pretty neat.
2. And while it goes pretty slowly, and the less that there is below it, like it will use up the resources over time, it is going to mine 20,000 iron for you. So sure, it goes slow, but you just leave it running in the background. If it's on a server, it'll just keep running. You just have this thing run. And while you're doing everything else, you get so many resources. It's incredible. And that's just, like, that's how you get the resources in immersive engineering. That's how you get her done. Okay, all these resources, you have them now, but someone might want to steal them. So you gotta defend your own property. Make yourself a Tesla coil. Tesla coil, copper coils, HV accumulators, aluminum on top. You slap this thing down. You do not attach it to power. You take the engineers and you can invert it. So you want to invert it, but make sure it's not attached to power when you have it inverted. You don't want the power plugged in, you want to invert it. Then you want to attach it and run away, because it shoots out electricity at everything that's hostile near it. With a shift click, you can choose if it's of high power or low power. Low power is a lot safer than high power. Anyways, just get these Tesla coils set up and make sure your wiring's all careful and have fun with them. Alright, next on the list of war crimes to commit. Let's make razor wire. Razor wire is made with steel plate and steel wire in this mod in this video game. Now, you just simply put it together, you get razor wire coils, you lay it out. Creatures that walk on them, they don't have a good time, it hurts. If you walk on the edges of wire wires, safe. You can walk through it, it's pretty good. Put this at the top of things so people can't climb over. Have it defend your base. Add some Tesla coils into it so they're slowed and get hurt while they're going through this because it causes pain. Observe. Ow, ow, ow. Slows it down. And then it's time for some mad science. Okay. So, to do mad scientist stuff, you take steel scaffolding, put it down. You get the high voltage coil. Get some high voltage accumulators. You put them out in this lovely little pattern. Then, on top of that, you put down another accumulator. You put down some light engineering blocks with a bit of treated wood fence around it. Finally, on top of that, you put one more high voltage accumulator and a whole bunch of copper coils around that. Then you tap it with a hammer. Boop! You get this thing. And you can have wires come off of this and go to batteries if you so choose. Looks a little bit crazy. What should we go and do with this? Well, let me tell you. We're going to take steel fences. We're going to put them on top of it, as high as you can go. And then we're going to make a little net. There we go. Then you wait for a thunderstorm and hope one of these steel fences gets struck by lightning. And if it gets struck by lightning, it completely fills the storage of the lightning rod device. The chances are low, but every single metal fence you put up there increases the surface area and chance of getting struck by lightning. What to do with all this power that we have? Well, we can make the charging station. Like this, pretty simple. You should know what to do. You should have a JEI at this point, and you should know how to use it. So you can attach the charging station up, get some power. That's kind of fun. And then you can go look at logic. So there's a logic unit and an engineering circuit table, and they work with a bunch of logic stuff. And I'm not going to do that. That's not within this tutorial. This is a logicless tutorial. And that's because logic is far too complex for me. I'm already very far in, and I just didn't have time to figure logic out. Now, I can do that in another video if enough people want me to figure out logic and want to torture me in such things. But as it stands right now, I'm not going to even bother trying to comprehend logic. And from that, we're going to move to fun things like tools. We have a buzzsaw, a chemical thrower, a railgun, engineer skyhook, heavy-plated shield, accumulator backpack, the good old revolver, and the mining drill. So there's some features on these things I didn't cover, and there's some brand new tools we haven't looked at. So we're going to start with the good old buzzsaw. The buzzsaw, like the drill, takes fuel. To get this fuel into it, you fill up the buzzsaw like you filled up the drill with a jerry can and a bit of Beisel deal thrown in so you can get the saw. This saw isn't very useful unless it has a saw blade attached, or a stonecutter blade. Either or, pick your fancy. Put the saw in there. And you can attach the blade, and you can go rim, 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 and you can saw things with it. Saws grass pretty good. Does a pretty good number on these tree branches. It's a good weapon. Does a lot of damage. And within the book is detailed a whole bunch of things you can attach to all the tools in the tools section. So if we go to the tools section, we click on the buzzsaw. We can attach to the diamond saw, the rock cutter blade. We can test a pressure tank, which increases how much fuel it can hold. We can make it so it works faster with the lubrication system. We can have extra blade storage inside it. And so basically, the idea is we've got several different options of ways we can upgrade this thing, but there's only so many upgrades that any one tool can hold, and those are determined down here. So we could give the extra quiver space. We could put gas tank in here, or we could put the advanced lubricator, but we can't choose all of them. But we can upgrade our saw in kind of cool fashion, so you can upgrade the tool to become more intimidating. So that's the saw, and we've already sort of covered the drill. And then there's the chemical thrower, which is yet more war crimes that we can't help ourselves. And my goodness, this thing has some fun applications you can add to it. We're going to add extra tanks to it and then fill it with some chemicals. Put it into the table, and then we get some Beisel diesel in there. So that's one of them. The liquid concrete in there, herbicide in there, and then with this thing, you can just fire it out. You can herbicide out there, just piss out death if we want to plants. Then we can rotate it out to biodiesel, and we can go, oh look, it's just a bit of biodiesel. There's nothing wrong with biodiesel, we're just sitting out there. Then we can shift right click, and we can make it so the biodiesel catches fire. And then we shoot out flaming sticky napalm, which we don't want to get on, as it makes us flammable, so you're weak to fire and then you burn to death. And then finally, liquid concrete. You throw out these blobs, And you can make temporary platforms to sort of run on and stand on. You can make like quick little walls, or you can catch things in. So this pig here, there we go. We caught it in concrete, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the list, the railgun, the only thing that's actually really used in this table. I mean, there's some other things, but the railgun you put in there, and it charges your railgun up. We're going to put in the one that actually gets power. And railgun's a cool weapon. Get out there. Railgun's got a bit of charge. Excellent. Go over to this table. We can, let's see, attach a scope to our railgun. So we can scope it in. Can add the heat sink to it. Then we take our railgun. Mother of innovation. And then, railgun. Well, what do you shoot out of a railgun, my dear lads and lasses? Iron beams. You hold down and right click to charge. Makes crazy sounds. And then it fires out the projectile at 1,000,000 miles per hour. Middle mouse button to scope in. Can zoom. Its max range is pretty good. It's basically, you can snipe people from across the world with this thing if you get the angle right. After that, we got the Engineer's Skyhook, kind of a useless little thing that lets you zipline. So you can basically attach yourself to a metal wire, and then you hold it down, and then you drop off, and that's the Skyhook. It lets you slide down wires. You can't slide up them, you have to hold down right click while you jump onto it. Then you mounted the wire. You go for a little slide. Heavy plate shield. Now this thing, massive honking shield you can attach to your arm. You can look through it, gives you a lot of armor, and you can attach some fun things to it. The fun things we're going to attach to it in this example is the shock emitters and the flash bulb. Put those both on, take it out. You need to put in the old charger. I got this baby. Defends us from harm coming our way. If we were to face a skeleton, its arrows will get zapped out of the air and uses up the charge until it recharges. And also blinds the sucker, gives us good armor. Much better than your normal shield. Now, these things do take a little bit of electricity to charge, so to run about making sure you keep all your charge, you can have this accumulator backpack, which is basically a backpack. It goes in a back slot, so you can, I believe if you have baubles, it can be a backpack slot. Then anyways, you just charge up with all the power, bing, bam, boom, and then it acts as a power supply on your back, so it can charge the things that require electricity on your back. And that's all the tools we're going to cover. Right. Cover the line writing. Now, there's a few extra wire things you can do about, as you can see here. There's these wooden poles, which you can stack up on top of each other. You can make poles come out of them with the hammer. If you want to attach stuff to them, they'll flip automatically upside down. You can put your power lines along here. These little cable structures here are for steel cables, so attach them together so you can line right along those and use them to decorate. And then finally, there's these wall mounts that you can put along walls. And then you can put the capacitors on top of them to move your power about. If you want to light things up, there's a really practical lantern you can just make out of iron plates and glowstone, and it just lights things up. A little bit of a cool funky light for theme is the powered lanterns. So lanterns just use your basic LV wire, and how you get the power to go through them is you just tack it up, and then you hook it, and then lanterns can hook up to each other. You can also flip them upside down with that, and you can go electric wire along to here. And then boom, you got yourself some light. It's a cool little light. And then the final great big boy for the light show. A little bit complicated to make. He's a vacuum tube. That requires all its own stuff. That is this beauty here. You slap it down. You just attach normal power to it. It does consume a lot of power. And then it illuminates an unbelievable amount of space. It's a little bit laggy if you're trying to maneuver around while there's still light coming out of it. But look how much light. So right clicking on the side will make it move up. You can illuminate the whole structure, then tap it on the top with the hammer, will make it rotate, and then holding down shift will do the reverse direction. So we're currently rotating this thing to point towards village. I don't think it's going to reach the village. And it just lights up this whole area. The spotlights are actually really cool, useful for doing work, decoration, lighting up a compound. They just produce so much light. If they're a little bit laggy on your game and server. So when you want to maneuver them about, it's best to have them off and then they turn much quicker, and then you can turn them on and off again using power switches and the like. Concrete is pourable into many different forms. You can cut it up in the stone cutter table into a bunch of different slabs. You can reinforce concrete to protect you from radiation when you use the nuclear reactor add-on for immersive engineering. These plates will protect you. You can also pour concrete, and poured out concrete will flow like a lot of other liquids, and then over time it will harden into solid forms. And then you have yourself a whole bunch of new stuff to lay out. And you can use scaffolding basically to make molds. That's what I did here. So made this sort of scaffolding tower for myself here. And then you can get these pillars and stuff. So you can use scaffolding as molds, and it's just a useful little substance to quickly build walls faster than you think you would. You can do a lot of abuses with concrete. Yeah, turrets. So you can not only set Tesla coils, you can also set turrets. And the turrets can be of chemical throwing variety, which is made like this. Uses that turntable we talked about earlier. Scope on top, little circuit panel. Or you can make yourself a gun turret, which requires an extend magazine and a revolver in it. And you slap these things down, power them in the side. They have power receptors on the left or right. You will need a screwdriver if you're going to work with these things. The chemical one, you want to set up a fuel system. So this one shoots out castor oil. This one gets loaded with armor-piercing rounds, which were coming from this bucket. It's used up a lot of them. And then you right-click on them, and you basically have blacklist. So automatically puts your name in there. You can put your friend's name in there for extra security. You can say blacklist or not blacklist. You can add animals. You can add players for it to hunt. So it's currently going to hunt animals. You can hunt neutrals. And these things will just fire out what you want. Why I say you want the engineering tool is you can add a redstone signal to them, or you can invert them, and inverting them just makes them automatically operate. And then if we go into survival here, so they're currently not firing at me, but they will totally murder this cow. So I can say fire at players, and remove the blacklist. Then it's going to kill me because I just unblacklisted myself as the players. That's where that's controlled. And so yeah, you can set up yourself a fun security system there. So we're going to turn back on blacklist, and then we could, I don't know if sheep would work. That counts as a player or not. Oh yeah, you can blacklist the animal by their name. That's a useful thing to know. So the gun's going to go ham on them, but everything else is going to be fine. And that is the security systems of the horrible turrets. If you want to do something even more dystopian, you can grow your vegetables inside in a tube. Just get yourself a source of power. Make yourself a garden clock, whatever it is. Simple enough to make. Vacuum tube, you can figure it out. Pop this thing down, supply it with water through a pipe into one of its receptacles in the back for water. You can extract things from the front here, then you can make the unholy farm tube. Well, you put the resource you want to the top, put the dirt in the bottom, you put fertilizer into it, and then it'll grow plants over time. To extract things from it, you just put the extractor near the top, and it'll yoink it all out and put it into whatever storage you want. It'll continue to run the wheat and dirt production, so you can get all your plant seeds coming out. You can grow anything you want in here, so if we go wort, put the wort on top, then it'll start processing growing nether wort, and it just needs a supply of water, some fertilizer, power. Doesn't even need the fertilizer just helps. And then boom, bada bing, it'll grow the plants for you. Storage. You want a little bit more storage because you have all these new wheat plants growing up on your property. Got all this new wheat, you want to store it in something more efficient. You can build silos and tanks. So silo is built by putting sheet metal and little wooden feet around it, sort of like this. Then you make the thing taller. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall. And then you just cap it, boop. And you take a hammer, and you tap it, boop, and you get a silo. Now, things go into the silo through the top. How do you get them through the top? Well, you use a dropper conveyor belt. And we put that on top. And then we can put whatever conveyor belt we want after that. And then they'll store the stuff inside. It just goes in, boop, doop, and it says this is a grain silo. And it stores an absolute metric ton of stuff. Kind of useful for the good old iron we're getting from the digger. You can make the stuff come out the bottom by just putting conveyor belt on any side of it, then tapping a lever, and then the redstone signal will tell the stuff to come out, then you can turn it off, and it won't come out anymore. Water one's very similar, it's just a lot shorter. So, take the top of this, and we just make it, I think it's 4 tall. And we boop that, yep, 4 tall, we get the water tank. Water tank takes in water from the top. You can use a bucket to add this liquid to it. So this is currently a water tank. So we can go and we can just bucket water into it. We can also store buckets of potion in there if we want to. And we got this barrel down here. We can extract the water out the bottom by just simply attaching a pipe to it. and that'll pour out at the bottom if we so desire. And you can also just attach pipes to the top and pipe things in through there, and then they will just pipe on in, and that's liquid storage for you. Now there's a whole lot of other stuff you can probably find in the book, and you can figure out a few systems and automations for yourself that you probably think is cool. But as for me, I'm done. That is how to immersive engineering. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have other mods you want me to cover on how-tos and what you want to do, just let me know, and I will try to utilize that. If you want a little bit more on immersive engineering, just ask, and I will see if I can figure out logic or how to create systems. All you have to do is ask, give me ideas, might get it done, depending on the demand and how much I feel like doing it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you found it useful, entertaining, whatever it is. And I will catch you all next time. So until that time, as always, thank you, and goodbye.